Okay, so now we've recorded all of our fundamental sounds here on the Moog Matriarch. So from here on out, we're moving on to cool textures. And the very first one that we're going to work on today is called Matriarch Computer Sparks. It's based on the idea of kind of automating the filter modulation with the resonance up at about 75% to give us some of the starting of self-oscillation there so that we get a really cool kind of computery, droid-sounding, glittery sound that we can put on top of our other chords. Because most of these, I'm intending them to be played polyphonically, and that's where they really shine. So let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is kind of broaden out what I've got going on in the oscillator section here a little bit to give us a little bit more of a rich, kind of diverse tone. And one thing that I really like to do along these lines is to put a square wave in the bass, because I believe that that is a kind of more bass responsive, powerful kind of wave. So I'm going to switch to square wave, and I'm going to move down to the 16-foot octave range. I'm going to put a saw wave as our kind of main principal note here. And then I'm going to have a triangle wave up on the top. So we've got 3 different octaves playing at once, but it's all the same note. And I'm going to go ahead and take oscillator 4 and bring that out because I'm not going to use it for this sound. A lot of the cool texture that we're going to have going on is actually from the filter, not really from the oscillator section, though we are going to leave some of that fundamental note in so that it still sounds musical when played as a chord. So the next thing that we're going to do is go ahead and start working on our filter section. I'm going to bring the resonance up to 75%, well, maybe a little less than 75%, but almost there, on both of our resonance knobs. And I'm going to take the cutoff down to about 50%. Let's hear what this sounds like. So just by manually turning the cutoff knob there, you can hear that we've got a kind of dramatic filter sweep going on. And that's good because we're going to automate the filter. And we're going to do that using our patch points. For this, I'm going to use the sample and hold of our LFO. The reason I'm using that is because it's a kind of random sound, which is exactly what I want. I don't want something that's repeating in a clearly identifiable pattern. I want it to feel like spontaneous texture. So we're going to use sample and hold. I'm going to bring that over into one of our mult bays here because I need to duplicate that signal. I'm going to take the first out here and I'm going to take this duplicated signal and run it into cutoff 1 in. And then I'm going to take another version of this signal here and I'm going to run it to one of our attenuator attenuverters. So these are labeled attenuators on the Moog Matriarch. I've seen a few people comment that they're actually more like attenuverters. I'm not an electrician, so I don't know, but I'm taking their word for it. I'm going to run this into the input of our attenuator attenuverter here, and I'm going to take the output of that, and I'm going to run it into cutoff 2 in. So what this has done is given us a way to invert the signal coming from our mult bay there. If it's at 12 o'clock, it's not doing anything at all. If you bring it up all the way, then it is retaining the positive nature of the signal. And if you bring it negative all the way, then it is inverting the signal. So we're inverting the signal here. So what we've got going on is the same sample and hold, but it is inverted left and right. Now, we have taken that sample and hold, which we're using to automate the filter, and we have panned it left and right with left being the inverse of right. So let's hear what this sounds like right now. Okay, it's way too slow. So I'm going to bring the rate up. Okay, now I'd like a little bit more motion than that. I'm going to go ahead and bring these resonances up. Okay, that's a little bit more what I had in mind there as far as the computer sound. But I would like some motion in that modulation. So I'm going to use our other LFO here. I'm going to end up changing the rate here. If I just go straight out, the effect is way too extreme. So I'm going to use the attenuator to tone it down a little bit. So I'm going to put that at about 1 o'clock here on the dial, and I'm going to put that in the input. Then I'll take the output and run that over into our rate in. And I heard that the motion here was a little bit slow, so I'm going to move the LFO rate up. Okay, let's see what this sounds like. Okay, to my ear, this is just a little bit too bright, so I'm going to bring the cutoff down. Okay, that's pretty close to what I had in mind. So this is Matriarch Computer Sparks, and I know it may not sound like much here, but if you bring the delay in, you can get a sense for what it might start to sound like when we wetten it up a little bit, either in our DAW or in the Nord. So let's go ahead and start recording this.